In Aquabog, Virginia. Huey, News 12, Long Island. Stone and Judy.
All right, thanks very much, Virginia. That was one of the biggest concerns, that people, if they evacuate, we wanted to make sure they could take, you know, the little kitties and the doggies.
And they seem to have stepped up and really.
Yeah. Well, they did this rather quickly. Right now, we've got on the phone Dick Amper with Pine Barrens Association. Dick, can you hear us?
We can, yes.
Yeah, we spoke with you earlier this evening when this first began, and you had expressed.
And it's not getting any better, is it?
No, well, yeah, certainly. I mean, now they've changed their focus to trying to contain this. Give us an idea of what they're up against here in the Pine Barrens, the terrain.
Well, containment is the name of the game. They're not worried about the ecosystem. They're worried about lives and property. At this point, right now, what they want to do is to follow it, to track it, to not let it spread beyond the corridor in which it's moving. And it is really a terrifying experience for these people. Clearly, we're concerned about the people in harm's way, the property and the health and safety of folks. But the people we need to be most concerned about are these firefighters. They are very well trained. They're up against fires that change direction, that are simultaneously beneath their feet and over their heads. They are way, way better trained to do this than they were back in the 1995 fire, but they're up against the fury of Mother Nature, and they got a big problem on their hands. This is no walk in the park tonight.
Yeah, we're really heading into, well, we're darker already, but tomorrow morning will bring a brand new set of circumstances. From what you remember many years ago, what happens first thing when daylight hits? I know that you're going to be tracking this this story, but you know, in your experience in the past, what's the first thing that they're going to be looking for tomorrow morning?
Well, then they can come back and be aggressively. Right now they're playing defense, but in the morning they can get extremely active and they can see where they're going, especially if they bring in air cover. There are two forms of fighting this fire from the air. One is helicopters with huge buckets of water that can be very carefully targeted. They can land this water within 10 feet of any place they want it, and huge quantities of it. Then there are the C-130s, which took 5 days to get onto the scene in the 95 fires. The plan has always been to be able to put those into play earlier. So I think you're going to see the aerial combat begin sometime either in the morning or midday when they can see where they're dropping it. They certainly don't want to drop. I mean, it may be putting out the fire, but it's an enormous amount of weight. You would not want to drop it on firefighters. So I think you're going to see a more aggressive game the first thing in the morning. Right now, they're just trying to keep it from getting out of control any further.
And Dickie, when we spoke to you earlier today, you would mention that sometimes you at least have control burns in the Pines Barrens.
Well, that's right. The Pine Barrens is a fire-dependent ecosystem. It is supposed to burn periodically, but in a natural way, with a lightning strike periodically, and then you burn the litter of the leaves and the pine needles, and they don't pile up in the ways that they are today, and they don't provide the fuel for the fire that we're seeing. Because of cutbacks at the DEC and at the Nature Conservancy, we haven't been able to do prescribed or controlled burns to keep that threat down. And you add to that a very warm winter and a very, very dry last couple of weeks, and you've got a perfect storm.
Dick, what's the greatest concern environmentally? Obviously, as you had mentioned earlier, we're concerned about lives of the firefighters, homes and residences. But what about environmentally when all is said and done here?
Well, it took, the 95 fires took almost 12 years to recover from. Again, because the Pine Barrens is supposed to burn, you burn off the litter on the bottom, the seeds from the pine trees can land, and the forest regenerates. This is a process that's been going on for close to 12,000 years. That forest will recover. We'll lose some species. We'll lose species of birds that are not ready to leave the nest and cannot escape. We'll lose turtles, some of them special concern and endangered species. The animals, the mammals, the deer and the raccoon and the fox, they're very, very good at getting out of the way. The Pine Barrens will come back. The Pine Barrens will survive. The object of the game is to take care of the people around them, at least for the next 24 or 48 hours.
Okay, wow, look at that. Look
I
at
know,
those
and
pictures
Dick,
there.
you had said it. This is the right season for this, right, Dick? I mean, for the animals, a lot of birds are still nesting. They're just hatching at this point, and they're really helpless.
This is tough. The 95 fires came when at a time in the cycle when animals were better able to escape. This is going to take its toll on wildlife. But I have to tell you, it's a very resilient ecosystem, probably the most responsive to recovery anywhere in the state. The Adirondacks and the Catskills. The Pine Barrens are tough, and the Pine Barrens will come back. We just have to make sure we don't have any human casualties along the way.
Yeah, and of course, a very fluid situation overnight. Dick Amper from the Pine Barrens Association, thanks for calling in. We appreciate your time and your knowledge of the history.
Yeah.
Long Island's got a pretty long history here when it comes to the Pine Barrens and our ecosystem, and certainly with regard to